point. And then hopefully they can pick up Volskaya and pick up Watchpoint Gibraltar, which are the next two maps.
If I was Ground Zero, I would just play normal goats. The Reinhardt or Winston goats over and over and over and over and over. I wouldn't even look at the Sombra. They just seem so much better than everyone else at it. Why change things up, Jordan, if they're working?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah,
That's
and
the old
last
saying.
week, they can't judge last week because half their team didn't play.
Indeed, indeed. But Legacy starting on their attack here on Volskaya, as they did on Blizzard World. They set a pretty imposing time on Blizzard World. We'll see if they can do the same here on Volskaya, and making some nice moves, getting some good positioning with that Reinhardt, taking control of the high ground.
Moving very quickly, they certainly are, and you can see Bus already up to 50% of his Primal Rage. Fundray, on the other hand, hasn't been able to do much if he's just holding the shield up. Fundray on the point, no one else from his team is. Oh.
Someone's phone's vibrating.
That's quite calming. I
feel like it's slowly disappears.
I think people could sleep to that.
Yeah, I was actually going to say the exact same thing. Like, you know, the concept of leaving a fan on to make that constant noise.
That might help.
Maybe, maybe. Rainy mood, but we just need like a different version of it, which is Overwatch pause time, pause music sound.
Anyway.
What I do want to say there for Bus, obviously you mentioned him getting up to 50% really quickly. He's actually almost up to Primal Rage now in that very small amount of time. And that's one of the benefits of playing Winston into the Goats composition. Because Goats is going to be so clumped up, and because the Tesla cannon can hit multiple targets at once, the ult is kind of, it's the time that you're supposed to get it is based on hitting maybe one target or two targets at a time. But if you're hitting all of those targets at the same time, you're getting maximum value out of that Tesla cannon. It's doing a lot more damage than in theory you expect to normally, so you build that Primal Rage really, really quickly, which is going to be a big problem here for Legacy. Obviously, they're only just now getting onto the point. Primal Rage is already up.
And that fight's not really in a good... They're not in good positions, are they?
Exactly, and if they're not in good positions, if they do get in good positions, well, Primal Rage gets popped in and they're all of a sudden back in bad positions because they're getting bounced everywhere. So this is looking a little bit scary for Legacy. Bus will avoid the charge from Fundray, just decides to leap out of there, give up a little bit of space to Legacy, who will actually get the first tick as a result, but the re-engage is going to come across here from Ground Zero in just a second.
Look, Legacy did manage to find themselves a bit of a better position as well, and Bus going to go down to Fundray, 99%. There we go. Unfortunately for Ground Zero, that's not going to work. Mo has gone down to Jungle Jazz, however. Ground Zero going to be trying to hold this right here. Legacy already up to 67%. Certainly did not look like they were going to be able to get this first point, but now they're 2/3 of the way through. Looking for a Graviton Surge for Dowsu. For now, just
no chance for the grab.
There we go. They've waited as long as they can, and now they can follow up with all of the damage.
Well, the Primal Rage does inevitably come across from Bas, but how much work is it going to be able to do? Apparently a lot, as Ike just gets juggled all the way off the map. Great work from Bas. Not to mention he got a bit more damage into a couple of other players there. What a turnaround from Ground Zero. Legacy Esports, 99% on Mo. If he wouldn't have gone down early in that first fight, he would have had time to charge the Transcendence up. But it's the little things, the ripple effect, that do mean that Legacy doesn't actually finish off that point capture. They do get 2 ticks though, Ben, so it's not like they've come out of this with absolutely nothing. But Ground Zero hanging on quite nicely there.
It looked like they were going to get nothing, and then they got so far, and then it just fell apart at the end. So, look, if you told me at the start they were going to get 2 ticks, I would have been doubtful. So I'm surprised. I'm sure they will happily take this one. Going to come out, try again. Mo going to get booped, I think, by Jungle Jazz out from behind the shield, and as a result, again, no Transcendence available, and the fight over before it starts.
Well, fair enough. This one at least doesn't cost too much time for Legacy. I don't know what Jungle Jazz is going to try and do from up here. Just get a nice boop that'll force Legacy out of position, probably. The rest of the team will dive in.
Look at that, straight away. They are not dealing with Jungle Jazz up there at all. Mo going to go down, the first one down, but as you said, a 1-for-1 sees Bus picked up. Noosh, D-Mech. Fundray did throw out the Earth Shatter. I thought we might get more from this, but it's not going to be the case. Ground Zero going to come out with the Transcendence as well. Could be enough to get them through this fight. Oily doing work as always. You can see Jordan, Oiley's absence last week, how much of an impact he's had this week.
And it's really good play from Ground Zero as well. They're focusing down Mo. If Mo forces the Transcendence out, the Trance is going to come in a pretty inopportune position for Legacy where they're going to really just only be able to use it to actually get onto the point. Yeah. They can't take that high ground off Dubois, off Locus, off Oiley, and Bust is also going to be able to just jump onto that high ground when the Transcendence pops. Ground Zero be fairly safe to sustain through it. If he doesn't pop it, he goes down and it costs Legacy the fight, like we saw last time. So this was great work from Ground Zero. This time, a little bit of revenge, though, from Mo, and Legacy need to push that W button, get on the point right now.
Yeah, they've got the advantage and they've got the Transcendence as well. Graviton Surge available here for Ike. This should be enough to finish it up. They throw in the self-destruct, Jordan. I get why. I'm not sure if it was required. The point, though, will go their way. They'll get a little more time, another 4 minutes to make something of this as they head towards Objective B. Still would have preferred to have that self-destruct available right now.
Yeah, probably, but without the Graviton Surge to combine it with, maybe there isn't too much use for it. You could argue Fundray could use it to get a nice Shatter down, but here comes Transcendence in. Shatter doesn't connect for Fundray.
No, it certainly does not. Mo's popped the Transcendence. It now dissipates. Jungle Jazz has the sound barrier available.
Ooh, slammed. Fundray just experiencing the main tank life there, Ben.
Yeah, bit BL, but Ground Zero now, they've got the spawn advantage, and to be fair, they've won the majority of the fight so far, so they're looking okay right now. 3.5 minutes to defend this second objective is definitely doable.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I traditionally feel like Volskaya B is one of the more difficult maps to actually complete.
Yeah.
And with only 3 minutes on the clock, you know, you can come into this with 5 minutes or even 6 or 7 minutes and not actually be able to cap it up. So definitely going to need to see a good finish to this attacking side for Legacy if they want to finish the map off. Waiting for all the ultimates to come back up. Noosh, Ike, fairly in tandem, which is always good. You want your Graviton Surge alongside your Self-Destruct. Fundray needs to do some catching up though.
Shatter comes through. I think it probably went into the Zarya bubble. Yep. Whatever happened, the result was not what they were expecting. Grab comes through. Self-destruct over the top, and with Fundray going down, it leaves everyone else vulnerable to a big exploding Diva mech. And, well, to be fair, with the main tank going down, Jordan, it was probably only a matter of time. Anyway, Legacy now with 2.5 minutes on the clock will be required to reset. You'll see Ike and Noosh both have their ultimates ready now. Douse those should be able to counter this potentially with that Trance. See how it plays out for both teams. But Legacy, maybe this is their opportunity.
Oh, it just feels at the moment like Legacy's kind of running their head into a brick wall. Everything that they try to do on a point B is being countered quite effectively by Ground Zero, who are still, again, controlling the high ground quite nicely. It's a forward hold. Bust, very aggressive there. But he does have the Zarya bubble, keeps him alive, and it actually forces out the Trance from Mo.
This is the point where they need to win this. Self-destruct come through from Noosh as well. Not going to find any picks, however. Fundray sitting on an Earthshatter. Is this their last hope? 90 seconds or thereabouts on the clock, looking for a... Oh, I thought almost it was going to come out there. Fortunately not. The shield goes down, and as soon as the shield goes down, the Earthshatter goes down. Doesn't really have an impact, but hey, the rest of the team's going down in the meantime. So Legacy actually managing to find picks here. This could be enough. The
good news as well is that they have a sound barrier available to them. The Graviton Surge, the Self-Destruct are going to be coming up shortly for Legacy. So this is where they finish off the map, if nowhere else. If they get wiped and reset here once again, that's really bad news for Legacy because everything is right in front of them on a silver platter right now.
Bust is down. You can see the May is on the point. Dubois will go down eventually as well, so no May to worry about now. Rani sitting there trying to cause a ruckus, trying to counter Locust here. And, look, it's only a matter of time, I think, Jordan. Legacy will find this objective.
You have to assume that is the case. 49 seconds left on the clock there when Legacy do actually finish it off, so very nicely done. And be able to finish off both points of the map. Pretty respectable for Legacy, not to mention with some time left as well. So now where does that leave Ground Zero?
I honestly thought that they were going to defend it right then.
It did look like it, didn't it?
It was odd. It felt like the ultimates that came out from Legacy weren't necessarily on point, yet they still managed to win the fight, and it wasn't even necessarily as a result of the ultimates that they used. Well,
maybe a breath of hope once again for Legacy. Things were going kind of 50-50 for them on the attacking side of Volskaya, but you know, with a bit of time in their bank, if they hold off pretty strong here, they've got themselves a real chance of finishing another map in their favor. But it's a pretty important defensive side now as well. If Ground Zero sort of just steamrolls Legacy here, obviously that you can almost assume is going to be the series over, as there's the 2-0 advantage for Ground Zero. It's obviously a must-win map for Legacy. From what they do on the defense, we await to see.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be seeing this particular team comp, which is, you know, obviously upsetting because I would love to see it. I say this every week, but it's true every week. Alas, not today.
Your boy looks like he wants to go for some more Ana shenanigans, but I don't know that this is necessarily the map to do it. Don't think you're going to be able to find too much with that sleep dart, and he's aware of it. Going to swap back off. Fair enough. Okay, Ground Zero, what have you got for us? More to the question, I think, what does Legacy have for us on the defense?
Yeah, no Winston, 2 Reinhardt, so identical teams going head-to-head. Let's see what Ground Zero can do here on attack. They're going to take the same path that Legacy took the first time around. Going to go down the left and through the room, up to the high ground, fall like a bit of a waterfall, I suppose. Waterfall onto the objective. It's potentially on the card. They're waiting for maybe that Reinhardt shield just to get back to full health. Trying to take the high ground just above the point as well, which gives Locust a good little, I suppose, off angle to get behind the Reinhardt shield, but we'll get booped back and have to regroup here. Fundray at 50% as is Oily.
Yeah, Fundray really not having a particularly fun time at the moment as he gets forced back. Needs those armor packs, needs the heals to stay healthy. Ground Zero also falling back just a little bit as at the moment it's a battle for control of the top of the hut between both Divas and Lucios.
Do they know where the point is, Jordan? That's not the point. That's the hut. Anyway, Fundray goes down to Bass, and this could be the beginning of the end here for Legacy on defense. Ike tags out as well. Noosh, D-Mech, not going to pop the self-destruct. Legacy going to go down pretty quickly, 2.5 minutes on the clock. The point is going to go across to Ground Zero, so they'll have 6.5 minutes. The second objective, which to be fair is quite a lot of time. Yeah, never fun to actually play inside the hut there as the defenders because it really leaves you nowhere to go. Once Ground Zero is on top of you, you kind of have to fight or die. And in that case, Fundray was almost on his own and wasn't really able to do too much as Ground Zero just barreled their way in. Now a lot of ultimates up for both sides, but look at this, 6 minutes to cap for Ground Zero. 6 minutes to get a big advantage over Legacy headed into what would be the overtime. Legacy sitting on a ton of ultimates. Noosh, though, oh my goodness, gets absolutely deleted by Bust and Locust. Graviton Surge going to come out, so with no Diva with the defense matrix, it's much easier to throw out a pretty simple grab. Bust follows up with an Earth Shatter as well. Transcendence used by Dalsu. Stolen Picnic has gone and popped the sound barrier, but Legacy are losing players left and right. Mo down, Stolen Picnic down, Ike still not respawned. 3 players left, Ground Zero sitting on the point. Legacy are really struggling to defend this.
And they can't really get there in time either. Runny does actually get on. Noosh will be there as well to buy a little bit more time. Self-destruct out. It needs to be big and it's not. This should be Ground Zero now from here on out. Oh. Fundray with the Earth Shatter being cancelled as well. That's another nail in the coffin for Legacy Esports here on point B. And Noosh eventually pushed off, and I think that was just textbook really from Ground Zero, and that goes to show how important every single character is in this game. Every single person needs to be on point. If you overextend just one little bit, the advantage that 5v6 gives you is monumental, and Ground Zero, as soon as they get that pick on a Noosh, they push in, they use that momentum, continue to keep Legacy on the back foot, and even though those respawns come in, even though there's a lot of ultimates for Legacy, Ground Zero just easily able to sweep them aside on that point, all because of that one pick.
Yep, no Diva, no defense matrix, easy grab coming through, right into the middle of the team, follows it up with damage, and I guess that's a lot of the damage you know, is dealt with by that defense matrix as well. And if you know you can just fire, even if it's right into Reinhardt's shield, you know that it's all hitting that shield. And you're going to win the battle of the shields as well in that kind of situation. It just all goes downhill.
Well, it's not a good situation at all for Legacy. I think I'm stating the obvious there, but 1 minute on the clock. They do get that up from 49 seconds. They get those extra 11 seconds to give them at least a little bit of time here, but I don't know about this one. I really don't see them being able to pull off what I guess technically Ground Zero was able to do in the last game. But this is a different scenario. There's no payload to play with here.
Exactly. You don't get to just sit there and hope for the best, and maybe you half win a fight and the payload pushes forward a little bit. There's none of that. Jungle Jazz playing the exact same spot he was playing before. Right click comes in, boops everyone out of position. Legacy regroup and do so reasonably well. But again, the right click coming through from Jungle Jazz. Everyone out of formation. Stolen picks the first one down. Noosh gets DMEC'd. Ike very low as well. Rani about to go down. With 30 seconds on the clock, it's going to be a rush for the objective.
We should still get there fairly comfortably, particularly because Stolen is still alive, so if somebody needs to touch, he can get himself in a position, a pre-position right now. Jungle Jazz going to go back and taxi Duboy here. Legacy knew they could take the 5v or 4v6, but they just won't be there in time, actually. These players are going to get back faster for Ground Zero than Legacy did on the respawn. Now, who gets the touch here? Looks like Legacy will be able to, but they're in bad positions.
Yeah, Fundre going to be forced to charge to the point. There's not much you can do there. And with Mo going down, Fundre follows, and that should be it. Transcendence popped by Dowsu. The self-destruct will seal the deal. Ike caught out by the exploding D.Va Mech, and well, that'll be that. So, 0 percentage points the second time around here for Legacy. To be fair, they only had 60 seconds to work with, but now 5 minutes, 30 seconds for Ground Zero to find 33% here on Elfishguy. If they do that, they'll be 3-0. They'll get their first match win. And look, the thing here, looking at all of the maps we played so far, Jordan, up until this point, Ground Zero had not won one of the first 3 maps so far in this season. On
any of the modes, they've lost every single time. So you're exactly right, Ben. Traditionally, their best map actually has been those escort maps, which is obviously coming up next. And now I think we're really staring down the barrel of a 4-0. It sort of feels like Legacy, the steam has run out. You know, very similar to Order last week. They started off okay against Sydney Drop Bears, but as soon as they sort of lost on Kings Row, and in this case for Legacy, they lost on Blizzard World, they really seem to just go down a gear, and it seems like Ground Zero have really pushed themselves a little bit further forward from last week, and Legacy just not able to keep up.
Well, this is the Ground Zero that we expected for this season. Let's be real. Well, to be fair, I expected highest, but you know, after they became Ground Zero, then this is the Ground Zero that I expected to see. And this was a team that, when we were in Season 3 finals, everyone was like, oh, they might be in the grand final, and I always had, I was like,
not against Sydney Drop Bears.
Yeah, okay. But there was.
But that happens every season, Ben. That happened with Kangaroo in Season 2. I was like, I don't know about that, boys. But look,
up until now, they were not looking like the team that last season.
They were a shadow of themselves. That's for certain.
So this time around, though, as we said, 5.5 minutes now to capture Objective A, or at least get 33% that first tick, and that'll be the end of the story.
Either way, Ben, they've already won the series. There's no possible chance for Legacy to win the map. So
they can't. They can only draw at this point, and if they get a draw, that's it. So you're very right there. Really, just a matter of how many maps can Ground Zero get. Fundre will find Bus. It's going to slow things down just a little bit. They're probably going to need to regroup and try this one again. 4.5 minutes on the clock. Oily just being played with here in Baby D.Va form. Finally goes down. They'll regroup. Try once more.
Well, they've got plenty of time to continue to regroup here. It's Ground Zero, really. I think what you can do, you just build those 6 ultimates up and smash Legacy with the pure weight of ultimates here, if necessary. But to be honest, for Ground Zero, I think they've been pretty solid across all facets of this game, and I think just in general the fights probably will be going their way. They're looking a little bit more solid, a little bit more composed than Legacy are.
See Locust pushing through onto Noosh once again, trying to demech the D.Va. A few ultimates to work with for Legacy. Of course, they did win that first fight. Ground Zero pushes their way onto the point. Grab comes through, catches out Ike, looking to clean him up. Will be able to clean him up. Dowson's gone down though. Fundre finds Duboy. And even though Ground Zero had a good initiation, they will not win the fight.
Hey, maybe there's still something that's salvageable here for Legacy. Maybe some pride can be salvaged on Volskaya, get a tie here, go into the 4th map, maybe somehow win that. You go down 2-1, but...
Mate, if we get to the end of this map and I hear draw, I'm going to be mad.
Are you going to be mad? I would actually be pretty impressed.
Yeah, but I'm going to be mad at Ground Zero because I feel like 5.5 minutes is enough time to get 1/3. Just saying.
You're not wrong. But it would have to be a pretty amazing defense from Legacy if that were the case, and that would certainly be something to witness. Still, it never really feels like it gets easier for Legacy now, does it? Like, that's already 2 fights won, but there's still 3 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, that's still a ton of time to work with, that is for sure. But anything is possible. Self-destruct coming through from Oily. Finds Noosh somehow. Takes out the Diva. I guess Noosh must have thrown out his self-destruct and was not back yet in the mech. The 1-for-1 trade, but Legacy gets the better of the rest of the team. Again, Ground Zero are going to have to regroup, Jordan, and well, they're starting to run out of time here, and Legacy, to be fair, are not using that much in the way of their ultimates every time they win these fights.
No, definitely not. Obviously, the big combo is down with the Graviton Surge and the Self-Destruct, so there's not that to fall back on for Legacy in this fight. It starts to feel a little bit more doable now for Legacy, though, doesn't it? Like, 2.5 minutes gone, you've held 3 times pretty well, but all it takes is one mistake. As we saw on Legacy's initial defense of Point B, one mistake can cost the whole map. So Legacy, they cannot rest on the laurels just yet.
They certainly cannot, and well, they're going to go aggressive this time around. Oceania's come through, catches out Ike. Save there by a great sound barrier from Stolen Picnic. Will it be enough? They're chasing down Fundray, who's somehow almost managed to make his way into the attacker's spawn, Jordan.
Yeah, it's a little bit dangerous for Legacy now because Fundray will take quite a long time to come back. Ground Zero, their respawns are going to be faster. It's always more important to stay alive on the defense than it is to get those kills. So maybe that's the overextension that Ground Zero needs actually to find the win. Stolen Picnic didn't go back for the taxi either. So Fundray's going to take ages to get back here, and Ground Zero, they're taking advantage of it.
They are there on the point, almost up to that first tick. They only need one. Transcendence by Mo, but Jungle Jazz comes out just a little bit later with the sound barrier. Dowsu then pops trans of his own. Self-destruct is used by Noosh, won't find any picks. Fundray's gone down again. This is not looking good for Legacy. Ground Zero came into this with so much time on the clock. It's expected they win this fight and this map, but the situation right now, it's taken a very long time for them to do it.
Yeah, how is Legacy going to be able to win this? Well, the answer is that they're not. And Calf is going to be flipping over in just a second. Fundray, he did come back on the Wrecking Ball, but unfortunately it does not matter.
No.
Took a while for Ground Zero, sure, but it doesn't matter how long it takes as long as they get that point on the board, and now they confirm the series win again, I guess. Already they have one.
Yeah, well, they did it with a win instead of a draw,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So it's a little bit better, and plus, going into that second time around, I suppose, on Volskaya, knowing you had so much time to work with, you would have been coming into that expecting to get the map win. When we harp on every week about how important map scores are, particularly knowing that they had such a poor start to the season, Jordan, this Ground Zero team cannot be affording to drop maps when they don't need to.
Yep.
It's important that they got that win, and they did, and congratulations to Ground Zero. They're now 3-0 up with one map remaining up against this Legacy lineup, and they're looking not too bad. And look, we only question them, I suppose, because they had an average first 2 weeks, but if you're gonna have an average couple of weeks, you need to find a way back into it, and it looks to me, at least for now, Ground Zero are doing that.
Yeah, definitely. Every single map's going to be super important, Ben. I mean, we haven't spoken about the fact yet that they haven't actually played against Order or Sydney Drop Bears just yet, so they're down 0-2. It realistically probably looks like they should go down 0-4, so really they need to win those 3 matches, and they need to win them solidly, this being one of the 3 other matches.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing about when those issues were occurring in those first couple of weeks is that they were against teams that they were sort of jostling for position with on the standing. So if it was, 2 weeks where you're against Order, you're against Sydney Drop Bears, you're having roster issues, all that jazz, you're probably expecting to lose those games anyway, and then you get your stuff together when you face the other teams. But it's not really the case here for Ground Zero. Things get a little bit more difficult for them, even still looking forward. But this is definitely a nice comeback. It's definitely what they needed. They needed it straight away. They needed it in week number 3.
Yeah.
And they certainly needed to stop Legacy in their tracks as well, which they have done now. But you need to make sure this is a 4-0, I think, now for Ground Zero.
100%. The map differential, I think, will come into play one way or another, whether that's a matter of do we make it into the top 6 or do we make it into the top 4. It's going to play an important role for particularly this team. So every map they can get is important, particularly when we know, as you said, they have not played Order, they have not played the Sydney Drop Bears yet. So let's go and take, again, a look at our map pool, and we'll go to the last map of this match. It's going to be Watch Point Gibraltar, something, again, we haven't seen for a little while. We know now we won't see Lee Zhang Tao in this match today. And the question is, can Ground Zero make it a 4-0, Jordan? Again, as you said, the maps that they have been winning have been on Escort. So we follow in that vein, and the fact, of course, now that they're 3-0 up here in this match, you'd like to think maybe Heist can get this.
Yeah, I definitely think that they will be able to. It seems like I said earlier, it just seems like Legacy have kind of run out of steam. Like they're a flat tire at this point.
Legacy out of leg of steam? That's not funny, is it?
I mean, I don't know what. The leaves have fallen off the tree. The tree's dying. It's kind of like, I don't know, autumn. Everyone's going into hibernation mode.
Well, it is autumn.
That's true. Yeah, but look, for Legacy, like they started off well. Well, maybe not on Nepal, but they definitely started off well on Blizzard World. That was where you kind of felt like they had a chance. And ever since then, I've not really felt that anymore. They had a little bit of magic going, but it was squashed pretty quickly by Ground Zero. And now the better team has come out to play, and that is definitely Ground Zero. So Legacy, I guess at this point, you have to start focusing on next week.
The reality is here, Jordan, that coming into this season, between these two teams, we would have 1000% said that we would expect this Ground Zero lineup to very much do a number on this Legacy lineup. Like everything, everything that we knew about these two teams, this should have been a 4-0 at the start of the season. The fact that we questioned it today kind of
that proves
opposed to how good Legacy's been and how average a start Ground Zero has had.
100% agree with that, but it's definitely quite evident that Ground Zero is back with a vengeance now that they do have Oily. I look forward to seeing them against some of the stronger teams as well. Legacy, I also want to see them manage to get something. You know, I feel like they deserve at least a map on the board today. They've performed well, they've attempted to pick up a map win, and they've been pretty close, but it's just not happening. So I feel like with a bit of luck, maybe Legacy can actually finish off Watch Point Royalty here in their favour.
Yeah, they're definitely capable of doing it. The question is, will they? Payloads managed to find themselves a reasonable amount of ground, and Dallas who's like, "Excuse me, Brigitte, can you can't go past this."
Shield? What shield?
Excuse me, we're closed.
That's an amazing feeling as a Zenyatta player.
Yeah.
You get those dinks with the 5-ball. Well, good start for Ground Zero.
Yeah, and they've got the ultimate charge to work with now. Also, Legacy going to have to find their way back onto the payload. Looks like instead they're going to try and fight on the high ground, find themselves that advantage. They're not confident that they can push the payload forward with everyone firing at them from above, which I guess makes total sense here on Watch Point Gibraltar. In the meantime, Ground Zero's managed to find themselves 5. Ultimate's Legacy sitting on 4 soon to be, sitting on 3 soon to be 4. But the fight's not necessarily going their way here, Jordan. They're just spending quite a bit of time to make something of this. Ike will throw out the Transcendence. Noosh looking for the hole-in-one. Finds Jungle Jazz. Finally something in Legacy's favour. Oily going to get demeched also. This could be enough to get the payload moving.
Bus is rampaging around with the Primal Rage. Pretty low on HP, but does manage to rejoin the fight. So Ground Zero, they're doing a good job of stalling this fight out. Obviously, it's been evident that Legacy's been winning it for quite a while, but Ground Zero buying a lot of time. Dalsu's still alive here with the Arbor available as well, so he takes a little bit longer to go down. Ground Zero buy themselves 10 or 15 seconds there, which it doesn't sound like much, but can actually be the difference between one more fight or not for Legacy. But point A captured up. So mission success, at least to start things off with for Legacy.
Payload's going to get moving whilst Legacy fights out a little bit further ahead of their Diva, who's playing driver right now. Ground Zero, bit of an ultimate advantage on their side of things. We'll see what they do with this fight right now. We're fighting inside the ship. I don't know if that's where necessarily exactly you want to be if you are Legacy, that's for sure. But Butt's going to go down to Fundray. The sound barrier comes out from Jungle Jazz, but not quick enough to save their Winston. And now without their main tank, it can be tough. Duboy brings one back, but it's not necessarily who they were chasing. Oily finds another, and with that Graviton Surge coming out from Locust, Ground Zero managed to turn the fight around.
Solid stuff on the defense. Legacy, to be fair, they didn't invest too much there. Mo, the only one throwing the ultimate in, which was Transcendence. So Legacy are going to be able to come back into this with a lot available to them, but the doors have closed, so there's a bit of a choke point being established now, and this is where it gets a little bit hairy for a team like Legacy. When you get stuck trying to come out of those 4 doorways, it's pretty easy for Ground Zero to sort of camp you in a sense. And you see Jungle Jazz with a nice boot, disrupting Legacy a little bit. It's not the end of the world, but it does mean Fundray gets dropped.
And that was, look, Fundray literally chose to take that fight, Jordan, and it just didn't work out. So bad decision making that time around as well. We'll leave them without a main tank for the duration of this fight. Grab's going to come out, but Dowsu again tries to counter with the Transcendence. But Bus goes down, and now Legacy are going to find themselves in a better position. They need to go aggressive, and they need to go aggressive soon. Winston back into the fight for Legacy as well. Fundray getting ever closer to that primal rage. 1-for-1 trades. The payload continues forward. 150 on the clock. Noosh pushing through. You can see that Legacy are getting the picks that they need. Fundray has popped primal rage. Unsure whether it was required or not, but you can see Dowsu potentially going to get staken. Nope, they decide just to leave him in there for now. So the payload makes its way across onto the point. But primal rage now from Bus. One last attempt to try and stop them before they get all the way through to the second objective. Noosh going to get D-Mech there. Grab comes through. Trans popped on the attacking side by Mo. They don't have much else to work with, however, with Stolen Picnic going down to that self-destruct. Maybe Ground Zero's just turned this around.
It certainly looks like they've turned it around, Ben. Big damage being put out right now by Bus, charging the Primal Rage very quickly indeed. Legacy just not able to capitalize on the advantages that they have. Ground Zero holds strong once again. Only a minute left on the clock now, and given how long it takes to get back from the respawn for Legacy from where this payload is, probably could only say there is one more fight in this for Legacy. At the very least, they do have the Graviton Surge. Self-destruct will be up in just a second as well. Should have it before the grab goes out, or just about when it goes out. So there is the chance for the combo.
Fundray tries to take the high ground. Will get knocked off, though. Not necessarily the way it wanted to go. They're going to try and get up into the ship, now back onto the payload. Fundray, again, you can see taking damage from Locust, throws out a grab. Self-destruct comes through from Noosh as well. Looking for picks, not going to find any picks as well. Jungle Jazz has popped that sound barrier. They did lose Duboy in the process to Rani. So maybe that's not what they're looking for at all. Trans here from Mo. Might be enough to get it across the line. Trans from Dowsu, also Ground Zero with more ultimates to work with. Sound barrier coming out from Stolen. Fundray pops the Primal Rage, and Jungle Jazz finds one. Locust traded out by Mo. 1-for-1. Who would you rather have? That Primal Rage causing a bit of an issue here as well for Legacy. Fundray, look, let's see what he can do. Needs to make something of this for sure. Getting ever closer, the payload still 4.5 meters out though. Ground Zero losing players. Oily D-Mech, Duboy goes down. Bus about to go down also. Legacy finally win the fight. And as the payload comes through in overtime, they'll get another 90 seconds on the clock.
Yeah, but 90 seconds, is that going to be enough to push on through here? Obviously, they're doing a good job of chasing down the remaining stragglers of Ground Zero. Obviously, respawn's coming across. There's not actually that much to defend with right now for Ground Zero, so there is an opportunity for Legacy if they keep this payload pushing. 3 on the cart. That's what's going to be going on in the team comms. Ground Zero really doing a good job of keeping these fights lasting a long time, and when we get to a part of the map that's actually going to favour the defenders on the respawns, that might be too much for Legacy to overcome.
Legacy have 2 ultimates in their favour here as well. They need to find some picks, and they don't want to throw too much into it. However, they need to try and get as clean a fight wins as possible, and that's not going to help. Ike caught out by Duboy. Fundray looking like he's going to go down as well, and Legacy essentially gifting ultimate charge now across to Ground Zero.
That's exactly what Ground Zero wanted as well, because they were lagging behind in that aspect. Just a little bit, but every little bit helps. Now forward hold here from Ground Zero as well. Starting to back up just a little bit, but Legacy's definitely going to need to win at least 2 fights, so they can't afford to throw everything into this win here, assuming they win this fight.
Yeah, well, that's it. They just need to win the first one to start things off. Legacy now sitting on 5 ultimates. Ground Zero sitting on 6. Bus goes out with Primal Rage to start things off. Locust throws out the grab. Ike has already gone down as well, Jordan. So this is going to be real tough now for Legacy to push their way through. Both defensive ultimates used by Legacy on attack. Jungle Jazz has thrown out his as well. So almost everything used here is just Fundray. with this Primal Rage trying to push Legacy forward. He's doing what he can. The spawn's shortly going to be in Ground Zero's favour, however, and if they don't win this fight, it's unlikely that Legacy are going to be able to make anything of this.
Well, if they don't win this fight, Ben, it's going to be impossible to make anything of this, as we're already into the overtime stages, and they definitely are not winning this fight, I might add. 3 players already down for Legacy, or 2.5, I suppose, but Noosh eventually will make that in the third.
That's it. Even if it looks like they're staggering, even if it looks like they can extend the fight and push back onto the payload, if you're going one at a time as you stagger back out of spawn, it's not really going to work, is it? So, look, close-ish to Objective C, but if you want to win Watch Point Gibraltar, you think you probably need to find all 3 points.
I would say so, especially when Ground Zero have been so competent on their attacking sides. They finished off Blizzard World with time remaining, not a lot, but enough. And they finished off Volskaya with heaps of time remaining. So it's looking pretty solid for Ground Zero. I mean, that I think is definitely an achievable target for them. Similarly for Legacy, it's defendable, but I've said that a few times today, and they haven't really done enough on the defense than they really needed to. I think that's what's kind of let Legacy down. I mean, their attacks have been generally pretty good, but it's the defenses where they, you know, maybe just overextend a little bit, or a player gets picked off at the wrong time that really does cost Legacy. So something that they need to go back and have a look at the end of this match. Ground Zero definitely in a position, I think, to get the 4-0. That's what I'm predicting.
Attackers incoming.
Certainly looking like that, and certainly a result that Ground Zero require from today's match if they're going to have any hope of making it a decent result by season end. As Jordan alluded to earlier, they're 0, well, I guess they're 2-1 down, or 1-2 down now, winning 1 match, losing 2, and they've got the 2 top teams to go up against also. So potential to really only pick up one, one match for the first few weeks, which is not your ideal goal, I suppose. We'll see how it goes out for the rest of the season, but for Ground Zero, they need to find all 4 maps here to put them in good stead in terms of map results as they take on the rest of the season. We are, of course, only in week 3. There's still plenty more to play. 7 matches total for each team. A little bit better than last season, but still can be a little bit tough as well. Ground Zero going to easily make their way onto the payload. They do not need to make it all the way to the end either, but this is a good start, forcing their way through. You can see Locust up to about 60% energy on the Zarya, only 30% though on the grab, and going to aggressively push down onto Mo. Great work, great combo with the rest of the team as well. Catches out the support play here for Legacy with no Mo. There's limited heals, I suppose, for them to work with, plus you're not going to get that Discord orb either, so the payload easily through the first phase.
I'm not sure how that happens. Like, Mo just sort of sitting there out in his own, left to dry a little bit, and Locust just kind of walks at him. It was really just Locust, I think, that kind of did the majority of the damage there onto Mo. Finished him off in the end, but Legacy needs to do a better job of protecting that Zenyatta if that's how Ground Zero are going to be able to dismantle the defense of Legacy. Already pushing forward as well on the attack to keep Legacy out of position. Bus, nicely done with the Primal Rage.
That was nice work coming out from Bus. Had enough confidence that he'd stay alive long enough to get the rest of that Primal Rage up and running, but in the end, the Bus ain't going anywhere. Stolen Picnic finds the kill. Fundray takes a bit of damage as well, but Legacy keeps their main tank alive. Dowson found out by Ike. Legacy in prime position now on defense. They'll win this fight, and that should be able to settle things down just a little bit. Ground Zero now feels like they've thrown a lot into this, including this ultimate here from Ike. But, sorry, the ultimate there from Locust onto Ike, and going to catch him out as well. So Ground Zero aggressively pushing out there. Certainly didn't expect to see this, but the payload's moving. Ground Zero are moving here, Jordan. Yeah, something they didn't necessarily deserve to win comes out in their favor. I
mean, I'm not sure what's going on there for Legacy. They don't use any of the ultimates with the exception of the sound barrier. Obviously, Ike went down early. They will get the recontest at the bare minimum. Fundray, though, almost dropped even through Primal Rage. It just feels like Legacy are throwing the ultimates in a little too late, but they do have a chance of turning this around if they have a big power play right now.
Yeah. Look, Nusha's been demexed as well. and picked up, tried to throw at the self-destruct, didn't have any sort of impact. And Ground Zero, again, they're going to be able to push through here. Honestly, that looked like a fight before that Legacy should have win. They lost their Zarya and decided to throw not much into it. I thought they could have defended it. Either way, into the third and final phase here of Watch Point Gibraltar. They do not even need to make it all the way through to the end. They got 5 minutes on the clock. This is almost unlosable here for Ground Zero.
Would not disagree with you. 5 minutes is a lot of time. And they haven't been struggling at all on the attack so far. Really been seeing some good stuff out from Ground Zero today. Much better than the last couple of weeks. Here goes Bus straight in deep, right at Mo.
Andre Lowe will get caught out as well. Booped around the corner, makes life tough if you're a Reinhardt. Bus on the Primal Rage. Ike's gone down. This should be the end of the story. That's all she wrote, Jordan. This will be a Ground Zero 4-0 and a very well-deserved one. They played pretty well today, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, very, very well indeed. But it's not over just yet, as Legacy do manage to stall the cart. 86, or 0.86 of a meter left for Legacy.
They're going down.
They're going down indeed, but it is just a matter of time, really. Can't call it before it's over. Stolen hanging around on the Lucio.
Okay, Doom's been over for the last 30 seconds.
It's not over yet, Ben. All right, now it is.
Are you sure?
Well, there's the 4-0.
It hasn't come up. We haven't seen the screen from our graphics team yet, so
that's true.
Anyway, Ground Zero 4-0, well deserved, well played to them, and 4 very valuable map points on the scoreboard. In addition, of course, to that match win for Legacy. I don't even know. I feel like they could have at least gotten Blizzard World. That probably should have gone in their favor. And then if you get Blizzard World, maybe you're not on tilt, and then things go a little bit differently. Just maybe not up to scratch today.
It almost feels like what it did for Mindfreak last week against Blank, where there was a few close maps and they looked like potential winnable ones for Legacy. And if they had have been, who knows how the rest of the series does go. End of the day, though, Ground Zero was the better side today. Across all those maps, you really got to say they had it all. They had really solid victories, like really super consistent ones, basically Nepal, Watchpoint Gibraltar, where they really didn't have any problems at all. Then they had to fight from behind for Blizzard World. There was a fairly close, but still a fairly comfortable victory on Volskaya. So it kind of, it was a bit of everything for Ground Zero. Nice to see them have a bit more success this week as well with that full core roster.
Yes.
All 6 players are back. Hopefully, hopefully the Ground Zero guys are going to be able to come back in the next couple of weeks with some similar results and keep themselves in contention for playoffs and in contention for finals.
Yeah, I guess, again, that's the benefit of this more extended group phase where you have 7 other teams to play. If this had been last season and by chance they had Drop Bears and Order in the same group, it would have been very tough for them at this stage. But now they have a few more teams to play against, so just evens itself out just that little bit more. But today, Ground Zero coming out with their first match victory of the season, and doing so in style up against a Legacy lineup that, to be fair, has had a pretty good run, pretty good start to the season, has beaten my expectations very much so far. Yeah,
they have. The question again, though, we kind of have to go back to last week is how much further Legacy can actually go. Like, they had a good performance last week, but we said if they're not able to consistently put those kinds of performances on the board, then it's not really going to matter, By the end of week 7, we're going to be saying, oh, okay, they might have won a game in week 2, but what does it really matter if they've only picked up 1 out of 7?
That's true.
So we need to see Legacy really stepping up next week or in the next few weeks and being able to win 1 or 2 more matches. Otherwise, all that hype was kind of for nothing.
Well, Jordan, it's time for my favorite part of the day. It's our Macca's Play of the Game. A McDonald's Australia Play of the Game, Ground Zero up against Legacy Esports, and I think it's time for a bit of Primal Rage, Jordan.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Primal Rages. You know it, Ben. I've got to give that love over to the main tanks. This was great stuff from Bus. I really liked the play because it was really what turned things around. It looked like a fight that Legacy was actually going to win. Ground Zero were in a poor position. Bus comes back with the Primal Rage. He's actually just respawned at this point, gets back into the fight, and instantly makes a difference. Able to turn the fight around, buys Ground Zero a little bit more time on their defense, and obviously they go on to then win that map, not just because of that play, but nicely done from Bus.
And that Primal Rage can be difficult to hit sometimes as well. It seems easy, just hit your Q and go nuts, but to get the boot back.
The nuances are much more in-depth.
Yeah. So it's a little bit tough, and great work to Bus. I guess that's what we expect from our main tanks here in Aussie Contenders.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously good to see a return to form for Ground Zero, a return to form maybe for Bus there as well. I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do for the rest of this season, Ben.
Yeah, so am I. Coming up next, Jordan, is the Sydney Drop Bears up against Atletico. This, look, this first match that we saw today went a long time. I'm not so sure about the next one.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, Atletico at the moment, if I was to make my power rankings, I'd probably be putting them at the bottom, actually. And obviously, Sydney Drop Bears would definitely be at the top. So this might be the David and the Goliath that we theorised some of the other matches in Week 1 might be. But Atletico definitely struggling at the moment, and I think the woes are going to continue in the next match.
It's top of the table up against bottom of the table. Coming up next, we'll be back right after this break.